Hello, and good morning. Okay, so it's been a couple days, so let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. Yeah, so he's about where he needs to be. Going for his, right, he was going for that Ashley Riot look. Got Lloyd here practicing to be a ninja down the road. Vice is still doing his thing. Don't I have something better for you? Not quite yet. Yeah, right, everyone's one level off. That was the weird thing here. Well, that's fine. So, Bordu's next. Not gonna go for a grind fight. Potentially could to, you know, fix the whole level situation. But we're gonna be fine for now. Yeah, probably put aside Yozian for a sec. Let's pop you up in the front. Sarah, you need to be in the back. Rosia, you need to be in the back. Your friend is a midliner. You're gonna be kind of holding that left flank there in this fight. Yeah, these two are gonna go in first and just kind of plug the gap. Voltaire's gonna basically take on stragglers, and then Felix is gonna be backing up Warren on the left flank there. While these two fire at the right one, and these two just kind of support. This is, even with the mod, it isn't a terribly difficult fight. It's a little bit more potentially dangerous since, again, since basically each individual unit is more potentially dangerous. And yeah, he learned. This guy knew. He's not an idiot like that other guy. And it's especially funny because in base game, losing one of their archers would have pretty drastically lowered their fighting abilities. But alright. So, this fight, very similar to base game. Usually everyone just charges up. They send a few of their lighter guys up ahead. They've got a lot more of a backline than usual compared to the other ones. So this is usually where most of the fight takes place, and then a few stragglers slowly try to plod their way through this side. So, you know, just gonna take advantage of that whole situation. You know what, I'm gonna have you running around the side here. Kinda hold the very far right flank. And since he's gonna be casting, I'm gonna have him pop one of these leaves. I don't remember if there's even a point to do that yet, actually. Let's see. I never even taught him the other stuff. Well, that's fine, that's fine. Basically, if you're using tier 1s, you don't really have to worry about charging anyone up. Since more often than not, I don't know if there's exceptions to this, but you will be able to heal that 10 MP by next turn. So you can just basically keep using them to spam that move. Now, once you get up to tier 2s and stuff like that, you have to start needing to rely on meditate and whatnot. Alright, so you move up to here. Now Ravenous is going to do her thing, and she hits as hard as always. And right here is a good example. So Ravenous is a special character, Felix is not. They're still going to be fighting at about the same level, and because base stats don't improve, and I know I go on about this pretty much every time, they will essentially be as human as they are. You know? People get better, their skills improve, they get better at different stuff. So most of your character improvement will be coming from the skills that they actually gain while fighting, you know, their weapon skills, their augments, stuff like that. That's where you're getting your kind of baseline damage up, and then your overall damage is going up from your equipment. So, you know, it's nice. It is very, very nice to see that happen. I don't... yeah, this will be fine. I'm saying I don't need to move the archers up that much, necessarily. But, it'll be fine. I'm kinda just delaying their next turn a little bit, but they're not gonna have to move after that. I might just have Felicia run up to plug this little gap right here. Since the entire situation's changed a little bit, getting flanked is much bigger of a deal. So if you're being attacked from the front or sides, you know, just like pretty much every TO game has always been, you know, you're gonna have a much harder time blocking anything. Especially in this one, where the damage is way higher, but your evasion's way higher. If you can get around someone's evasion, yeah, they're gonna have a bad time. And rocks do damage. I don't know why that's so satisfying. Kind of a bummer this guy survived with 1 health, though. I suppose it's alright. Everyone's gonna get their weapon skills up, and dead anyway. That's why you don't run up friggin', you know, bleeding your organs out and slapping a band-aid on it. That might lead to problems, you know? Sounds like that guy punching you in the face with a friggin' claw. It's not unnecessarily brutal. Now, one thing you may notice here and there, a lot more units are just able to walk in the water by default. That's another very nice change. You don't have to go and specifically buy a skill slot to be able to walk in the water. I believe fencers were the only ones that were an exception to that in base game. So in this, it's more along the lines of, I believe anything that would have had Wade just already has it. You know, Wade 1, Wade 2, that kind of thing. So, fencers or spellblades and all that, they're able to swim pretty well. You get other ones, like soldiers or berserkers, that kind of thing. They may be able to just walk in the water. I believe Terror Knights and Knights just flat out can't, as their armor wouldn't let them swim, which is pretty fair. Not to mention that stuff was expensive as crap, so they probably would not want water getting all over that. Granted, you might have had somebody, you know, might have had their squire going around polishing it and all that, but yeah, probably don't want to risk it. And you pretty much spent the equivalent of like a friggin' $1 million on your suit. So it was interesting. Maybe wondering where I'm pulling that number from. There was apparently an economic study of some description that was done, you know, to try and get a general sense of how much armor would have cost back then. Like with modern metallurgy and things like that, if you got, and by the way, I'm talking about like a full like plate harness kind of thing. Modern techniques and all that, you basically ran into a situation where it's like maybe 15,000 or so, like 10 to 15,000 for a good suit. With how stuff was available back then, it was something, I think they said it was like $1 to $4 million, depending on, you know, how extensive the entire thing was. Or something like that. And yeah, might have been a little bit pricey. Which I guess, to be fair, you know, it can be expected when you have a thing that functionally makes you invincible in your situation, and is also very difficult to make. So, yeah. Every fantasy movie ever where they're like, yeah, everybody got a full suit of plate and everything else, and it looks all shiny, and they also had time to decorate it all. Yeah, not so much. Not so much at all. Gonna go pop out his buckler here. What about taking out him instead, then? My first plan was to try to get that archer so he's not poking holes in anyone, but if the caster can go away, that's just as good. This isn't exactly a terribly hard fight or anything. You may notice that, yes, there is a level advantage. However, if you look at the damage output everywhere, it's not making that big of a difference, and that's one of my... I know I go on and on about this, but this is one of my favorite changes with this mod. Just the fact that, you know, the levels don't actually do nearly as much as they used to. So, like for example, if you got 3 levels behind, there was a very good chance a lot of your people were just doing 1 damage or something like that. And you had to go break out the friggin' just ridiculously effective stuff to be able to do anything. Actually, one example, so I was doing that base game run recently, and I thought it was gonna end. I thought I actually completely screwed myself because I think I was like level 16 or something, and was going around looking for, what was it? think I was trying to find ancient wood or whatever, and I got it mixed up with a big bone that you get in, I think it was Lake Bordeaux. Basically, there's a Cyclops there that drops it, and I mixed up the two items. I'm on my way over there, end up misclicking, and end up going and starting the Ozma fight. Well, I get there, and it's like, okay, it is a 6th level disadvantage at this point. I'm going and comparing everyone's damage outputs and everything else, and it's like, okay, basically everyone can do a maximum of like 40. So that's less than ideal. Also, I have Denim completely surrounded on the wrong end here. It's fine. It's fine. I have enough turns coming up that they'll be able to get him out of that situation. Luckily, the AI does not seem to want to go for him at the moment. I think I may have a fairly durable Denim on my hands. For the record, I don't know what the cards at the very start. I don't know what stats they give you. I just kind of prefer to pick them based off some kind of random predetermined character thing, and occasionally get some interesting builds coming out of that. But yeah, he seems reasonably durable. Less offensive, more durable. I'll take that. I think that's his character in general now, though. Which is nice. I mean, his backstory basically puts him as more of a survivor than a fighter. And that really goes with a lot of the themes of the game of, like, everybody's just, doing whatever they can, they're doing the best they can, but they're not necessarily heroic characters. Smack that guy with a rock, or don't, whatever, that's fine too. Come here, delicious coffee. Good job on the murder, Ravenous. Alright, so I guess we're gonna start picking on this guy now. Since we're probably screwing up our chaos frame a little bit by going a little bit crazy on these guys. But thankfully, the archers are pretty well evasive. Not terribly worried about them taking damage right now. Once we get into higher levels, and once overall accuracy starts going up a little bit, these guys don't have any weapon skills or anything. That's kind of the main factor behind them not being able to hit anything. Yeah, down the road, that'll be less of a reliance. But for now, I can pretty safely bet on these guys missing their hits. And yeah, this level difference, or rather this stat difference in levels, this will end up tapering off more and more until, I want to say, like, after about 20 or so, it almost doesn't even feel like... It feels like everything just kind of stays solid at that point. Like, it doesn't really move around too much, which is a nice feeling. It's mostly the equipment that changes. And in my mind, that's kind of what makes the series, Seems like a weird way to put it, but... Like, every time I think back to, playing KOL friggin' forever growing up, I kid you not, just every week was another challenge run of that thing. Friggin', setting up unarmed characters as archers and doing a run as that took forever. I mean, it was possible. It was doable. It was a fun run, what can I say? But, actually, it was kind of a hilarious one because, they're just... they punch so hard. Why do they punch so hard? Yeah, I have to say, Fist Fight, probably the greatest perk in any relatively RPG-related thing ever. So if you're unfamiliar with it, KOL had a system that was just amazing of emblems. So functionally, these weren't actually emblems, they were more titles that your characters earned. So for example, you had a spearman run up, and bear in mind, anybody could use any weapon. So anyone could use any equipment whatsoever. That was completely up to you. There were no restrictions except for monster units. So like you went and you gave, let's say, an archer a spear because you wanted to get the Lancer emblem. What this consisted of is, yeah, you just have them do whatever class, whatever weapon, and then the Lancer emblem was just when they hit 2 enemies at the same time. So the usual, you know, tactics over spear thing. So they would get that, and that would be, for example, the prerequisite of, or one of the prerequisites, I believe, of becoming a Dragoon. I think you had to have, like, Lancer, Animal Killer, or something like that, or Dragon Slayer. You had to go and attack and kill a certain amount of monster units and whatever else, which would then prevent them from becoming a Beastmaster and stuff like that. It was such a cool thing. Like, based on their achievements, they could, you know, they unlocked or locked off different classes. My favorite class unlocks friggin' system ever. It was just beautiful. And yeah. Sometimes it was a little bit funny, like, you may notice every single enemy archer, with some small exceptions, didn't actually have the marksman emblem, which they needed to become that class. It's weird because they usually gave them their respective emblems. Like, if there were knights, they had knight certificate. Like, I say most of the time. I think it was just a lot of the generic ones didn't end up, they didn't really get to them. But yeah, it was just especially funny because, yeah, archers ended up unlocking their class over the course of already being that class most of the time. But there were some really cool ones, like if you wanted somebody to be a warlock, for example, you had a male soldier that ended up going and getting a bunch of kills with both melee weapons and with magic stuff. So they had to already basically be the class in order to unlock the class. It was cool. It was really, really cool. I mean, there were some that were multiplayer only, and there was one that most of the time Alphonse ended up getting it, aka Lance, aka the main bad guy right now, which is, I think it was called Warlord, and it was pretty much because he was, compared to everybody else, he was crazy overpowered. But it was for getting some certain amount of kills or whatever. And yeah, it gave a massive morale drop for everybody that's around. Rather, every enemy that's around, and I believe a massive morale boost for all your own guys. By the way, this is another example of you can't go for the leader anymore. Pretty much the entire fight ended up having to be done so that we would be able to actually get to this guy and have a reasonable chance against him. You may be thinking that's kind of a weird thing, but it ends up playing pretty nicely over the course of it. Early on, like while our guys kind of suck here and we don't have all their classes, it's going to be a little bit more of a beatdown than usual. But I like to think of this as a nice little analog for, you know, they're just basically holding him down and trying to get past the armor repeatedly. Granted, in this case, he's not actually in plate, he's in chain, or he's in some mail with a helmet. He's relatively open, but whatever. We'll just ignore that for the moment. It's fine. Oh yeah, but that whole emblem punchy thing, apparently Rakes was considering to let Lands be a puncher because of it. So there was this this really funny thing you could do. So at the very start of it, you know, you got your you had your questions at the start of the game, and one of them was a secret thing that pretty much let you unlock one of the emblems right off the bat. Presumably the thing that got him promoted to his position of kind of like a second-in-command of sorts. And I think it was like Pen and the Sword and Knight Certificate and things like that. Well, anyway, I feel like I must have mentioned this last time, but yeah, no, he punches stupidly hard. So I always ended up going for that one. Because then you give him a bow, and everyone gets in close. They're like, oh no, he does a crap ton of bow damage, I'm gonna get in close. Then they get in close, and his counter damage is higher than their weapon damage with his fist. Hilarious. Love it. I love that game to pieces, man. It's a little bit slow. That's kind of its main issue. Like, if it's one of those ones that makes a lot of sense to play in fast forward. As odd as that sounds. Like, especially nowadays. Back then, you know, if you were just a little kid with your GBA, you're looking at this thing, it's like, wow, I'm amazed this runs, I'm amazed this exists, this is the most beautiful and amazing thing I've ever seen. And bear in mind, this is after playing FFT. Like, originally I saw TO, like, man, I want to get this game, and then I'm looking around like, well, nobody has this. I really want it, but nobody has it. It's like, okay, that didn't quite work out, so end up getting FFT because we're basically about to leave on this cross-country trip. And, you know, gonna be gone for a little while. Essentially, it's awesome. My brother set up this little TV in the back of the car, and we're just traveling along the country. Pretty much the idea was that I was supposed to, you know, go and see all the sights of everything, and, you know, it was supposed to be like that one big trip. That was kind of back when I actually believed there was some humanity in my mother for doing all that kind of stuff, but any day anyways. Even that turned out to be a self-serving thing down the road. But it was awesome. Like, playing FFT on this little TV on the road, seeing all this crap, it was pretty mind-blowing. Got to go see friggin' rodeos in New Mexico. Weirdly enough, almost saw this clown get gored. Kinda crazy. I went to see all kinds of mountains all over Arizona. Almost made it to California. But, yeah, I think the desert made the biggest impression. Alright, so that's the end of that one. You need a weapon. You have your weapon. Who got 7s? You got a 7. Can you rapier? You can rapier. Nice. Hopefully Felix isn't the only one that got upgraded. I think Felix is the only one that... Oh, monks. There we go. Get ye clawed. And then you... I already have your pokey thing, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. I want them to be high defense, with the claws mostly serving for whatever damage they can and for spreading poison. Because as relatively weak of an ability as poison is, it's... Oops. Still potentially very, very useful. There we go. Head and gloves, as you should probably do for casters. They do function a little bit differently. Mentioned that before as well. But gloves are kind of an overall offense boost. Circlet is the same as it is. The robes, they're just for defense, but by and large, you really don't want anyone getting close to them anyway. There we go. That'll be that for now, and I'll see you in the next bit.